they promoted the person who knows less than you. Again, you watched someone with half your experience walk into the corner office while you're still waiting for recognition. And here's the truth nobody wants to admit. It's not because they're better at the job. It's not because they work harder. It's not even because they're more qualified. It's because when they open their mouth, they sound like someone who deserves that position. And when you open yours, you don't. That's the brutal reality of the professional world. Your expertise means nothing if you can't communicate it like a leader. While you're perfecting your skills and hoping someone notices, they're perfecting how they speak and getting everything you've been working toward. The most qualified person rarely wins. The person who sounds most qualified always does. There was a manager named Gregory who worked at a manufacturing company for 7 years. He knew his job better than anyone else in the building. He could solve problems that stumped engineers with decades of experience. He understood every machine, every process, every bottleneck in the system. Yet, when the promotion came up, they gave it to someone else, someone with less experience, someone who knew less, and who had been there only 3 years. Gregory was devastated. He confronted his boss, asking what he lacked. The answer changed everything. His boss said, "Gregory, you're brilliant at what you do, but when you speak, people don't hear a leader. They hear an expert. There's a difference." That single sentence contains the most important truth about career advancement that nobody teaches you. Your technical skills will get you in the door. Your communication skills will determine how far you go. And specifically, it's not just about communicating. It's about communicating like a leader right now, at this very moment. There are people less qualified than you getting promoted. There are individuals with fewer credentials sitting in positions you deserve. There are professionals with less experience commanding higher salaries, receiving more respect, and wielding greater influence. The difference isn't their competence. The difference is how they talk. This is the harsh reality of the professional world. Every single day, talented people are overlooked because they haven't mastered the language of leadership. They use tentative phrases when they should use definite ones. They ask for permission when they should make statements. They apologize for their ideas when they should present them with conviction. And with every word they speak, they're programming other people to see them as followers, not leaders. The tragedy is that most people don't even realize they're doing this. They wonder why they're not getting the recognition they deserve. They work harder, thinking that's the answer. They stay later, arrive earlier, produce more results. But the promotion still goes to someone else. The big project still gets assigned to another team member. The client still chooses to work with a competitor, all because of words. Here's what you need to understand. Communication is not just about transferring information from your brain to someone else's brain. Communication is about creating a perception. Every time you open your mouth, you're either building your authority or diminishing it. You're either elevating your status or lowering it. You're either positioning yourself as someone who should be followed or someone who should follow. When you say, "I think maybe we could possibly consider," you're telling everyone that you're uncertain, that you lack confidence, that you're not ready to lead. When you say, "We should do this," you're demonstrating decisiveness, clarity, and leadership. Same idea, completely different impact. The business world, relationships, and life itself respond to one thing above all others: certainty. People follow certainty. They invest in certainty, they trust certainty, and certainty is communicated primarily through the way you speak. Leadership communication is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's not about dominating conversations or talking over people. Those are the behaviors of insecure individuals trying to compensate for their lack of real authority. True leadership communication is about precision, clarity, and conviction. It's about speaking in a way that makes people naturally want to listen, trust, and follow. Think about the leaders you respect most. When they speak, something happens. The room changes, people lean forward, conversations stop. It's not magic, it's not charisma, though that's what people call it when they can't explain it. It's a specific, learnable set of skills that anyone can develop. The foundation of all leadership communication is this principle: clarity equals credibility. When you speak with absolute clarity, people perceive you as credible. When your message is muddy, confused, or tentative, people question your competence. This happens automatically, below the level of conscious thought. Their brains are constantly evaluating whether you're someone worth following, and your words are providing all the evidence they need. Confusion is the enemy of leadership. Every time you speak in a way that requires people to interpret, guess, or fill in the blanks, you're destroying your authority. Leaders never leave room for doubt. They don't speak in riddles. They don't hint at things. They state them clearly, directly, and definitively. When a leader says, our deadline is Friday at 3 o'clock, everyone knows exactly what's expected. When someone else says, we should probably try to get this done sometime around the end of the week if possible, chaos ensues. Same basic message, completely different outcome. This applies to every interaction you have. Meetings, emails, phone calls, casual conversations by the coffee machine. Every single time you communicate, you're either strengthening or weakening your position as a leader. There is no neutral ground. You're always moving in one direction or the other. The professionals who rise to the top understand this instinctively. They've learned through practice and observation that how they say something matters just as much as what they say. They've eliminated the weak language patterns that plague most people's speech. They've developed the habits that make others perceive them as natural leaders. And here's the most exciting part. This is completely trainable. You don't need to be born with a certain personality type. You don't need to be naturally extroverted or charismatic. You simply need to understand the principles of leadership communication and apply them consistently. Your voice is the most powerful tool you possess. It can open doors that credentials alone never will. It can influence decisions worth millions. It can inspire teams to achieve what they thought was impossible, but only if you learn to use it correctly. Only if you learn to talk like a leader. Let me give you the exact framework that separates leaders from everyone else. These are the 7 pillars that, when mastered, will transform how people respond to you. Each one builds on the last. Creating a complete system of influential communication. The first pillar is speaking with definiteness. This is where most people fail before they even finish their first sentence. They say, I kind of think, or maybe we should, or it might be a good idea if. Every one of these phrases broadcasts uncertainty, and uncertainty is contagious. When you're uncertain in your speech, you make everyone around you uncertain about you. Leaders speak in declarations. They say, this is what we're doing, instead of, what if we tried? They say, the solution is, instead of, I was thinking perhaps. Notice the difference. One invites confidence, the other invites doubt. When you remove tentative language from your vocabulary, something remarkable happens. People stop questioning you. They start trusting you automatically. A project coordinator named Felix learned this the hard way. He would present ideas in meetings by saying, I'm not sure if this is right, but maybe we could consider. His ideas were excellent. His execution was flawless, but his language undermined everything. Once he started saying, here's what we need to do, instead of what do you think about possibly, his entire career trajectory changed. Same person, same ideas, different words, different results. Practice this today. Eliminate I think, maybe, possibly, and perhaps from your professional vocabulary. Replace them with I know, we will, the answer is, and here's what works. Your confidence will rise with your language. The second pillar is using the language of solutions. Most people speak the language of problems. They focus on what's wrong, what's not working, what's difficult. Leaders acknowledge challenges but immediately pivot to solutions. They say, here's how we solve this, instead of dwelling on, this is such a problem. The difference is subtle but powerful. Problem language keeps everyone stuck in the difficulty. Solution language moves everyone toward resolution. When you consistently speak in terms of solutions, people begin to see you as someone who makes things happen, rather than someone who simply identifies obstacles. Listen to yourself for one full day. Count how many times you focus on problems versus solutions in your speech. The ratio will shock you. Then deliberately shift for every challenge you mention. Immediately follow with a potential solution. This single change will elevate your perceived value dramatically. The third pillar is mastering the pause. Weak communicators fear silence. They fill every gap with words, with and ah, and nervous laughter. Leaders use silence as a weapon. They make a statement, then stop. They let it land. They give it weight. When you pause after saying something important, you're telling everyone that what you just said matters. You're giving people time to absorb it. You're demonstrating that you're comfortable with attention, that you don't need to rush or fill space. Silence communicates confidence more powerfully than any words can. Try this in your next conversation. Make your point, then pause for 3 full seconds. Don't fill the gap. Don't qualify your statement. Just stop. You'll feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is your growth edge. Push through it. The results will amaze you. The fourth pillar is speaking to the future. Leaders live in the future and bring people there through their words. They say, when we accomplish this, not if we accomplish this. They say, after we succeed, not hopefully this works out. The language of certainty about future outcomes creates momentum. This doesn't mean being unrealistic. It means framing everything in terms of forward motion. Instead of, this is hard, say, this will make us stronger. Instead of, we might not make it, say, here's how we get there. Your language should always pull people forward, never hold them in present difficulties. A team supervisor named Carmen transformed her entire department by changing one word. She stopped saying if and started saying when. When we hit our targets instead of if we hit our targets. When you master this skill instead of if you can learn this. That single shift changed her team's psychology. They stopped seeing success as uncertain and started seeing it as inevitable. The fifth pillar is owning your statements. Weak speakers hide behind qualifiers. They say, this is just my opinion, or I could be wrong, but. Leaders take full ownership. They say, I believe instead of I think. They say, this is the right approach instead of this might work. The difference between I think and I believe seems small, but think suggests casual consideration. Believe suggests conviction. One is tentative, the other is committed. When you own your statements fully, people respond with respect. The sixth pillar is asking powerful questions. Leaders don't just make statements. They guide thinking through questions. But not weak questions like, is that okay? Or does that make sense? Those questions seek permission and validation. Powerful questions direct thinking and create insights. Ask, what would success look like? Instead of, is this a good idea? Ask, how do we make this happen? Instead of, can we do this? Ask, what's the opportunity here? Instead of, is this going to be difficult? Your questions should expand thinking, not contract it. The seventh pillar is eliminating verbal clutter. Every every like, every you know is a small leak in your credibility. These fillers tell listeners that you're uncertain, that you're thinking while speaking, that you're not in control. Leaders speak cleanly. Their sentences are crisp. Their thoughts are complete before they open their mouths. Recording yourself is painful but essential. Listen to one conversation. Count the fillers. Then practice speaking more slowly, pausing instead of filling gaps with noise. Within 30 days of conscious practice, you can eliminate 90% of your verbal clutter. These 7 pillars work together. Definiteness without solutions is just stubbornness. Solutions without pauses lose impact. Questions without ownership seem weak. But when you combine all 7, you create an irresistible communication presence that marks you as a natural leader. Now let me show you what's actually happening in people's brains when you speak. Understanding this will change everything about how you communicate. When you talk, you're not just conveying information, you're triggering neurological responses in everyone listening. Scientists have discovered that the human brain makes decisions about trust and credibility in the first 7 seconds of hearing someone speak. 7 seconds. That's how long you have to establish yourself as someone worth following. The brain is constantly asking one question: is this person certain or uncertain? Because in our evolutionary past, uncertain leaders got everyone killed. The tribe that followed a hesitant leader into battle didn't survive. The group that trusted an indecisive chief during a crisis perished. So our brains developed an automatic response. We follow certainty and flee from uncertainty. This happens below conscious awareness. People don't think, this person seems uncertain, so I won't trust them. They just feel it, and they respond accordingly. When you speak with conviction, with clarity, with definiteness, you activate neural pathways associated with safety and trust. The listener's brain relaxes. It says, this person knows what they're doing. I can follow them. But when your speech is full of qualifiers, hesitations, and tentative phrases, you trigger the brain's alarm systems. The listener becomes anxious, doubtful, resistant. There's also something called the mirror neuron effect. When you speak confidently, the people listening begin to feel confident. When you speak with energy, they become energized. Your internal state transfers through your words and tone directly into their nervous systems. This is why great leaders can walk into a panicked room and calm everyone down just by speaking. They're not using magic words. They're using certainty to override panic. But here's what most people miss. Your words and your body must match. This is called congruence. And it's absolutely critical. If you say something definite but your body language is tentative, people believe your body, not your words. If you claim confidence but you're fidgeting, looking down, or backing away, you destroy your own message. A sales director named Luther had this exact problem. His words were strong. He would say, this is the best solution for your company, with perfect language. But his shoulders were hunched. His hands were in his pockets. His eye contact was sporadic. His body was saying, I'm not sure about this, while his mouth was saying, I'm certain. And guess which message his clients received? They always chose his competitors, even though his product was superior. When Luther learned to align his physical presence with his words, everything changed. He stood tall. He kept his hands visible and used them to emphasize points. He maintained steady eye contact. Suddenly, the same words that failed before started closing deals. The words hadn't changed. The alignment had. Your posture while speaking determines how your words are received. Stand or sit with your spine straight. Keep your shoulders back. Take up appropriate space. These physical adjustments automatically change your voice, your breathing, and your confidence. You cannot speak like a leader while slouching. It's physiologically impossible. Now, let's talk about pace and rhythm. Most people speak too quickly when they're nervous or trying to prove themselves. Rapid speech signals anxiety. It tells listeners, I'm rushing because I don't believe you'll listen to me, or I'm nervous about what I'm saying. Leaders speak at a measured pace. They're never rushed. They know their words have value, so they deliver them with appropriate timing. There's an optimal speaking rate for authority, and it's slower than you think. Around 140 to 160 words per minute is ideal. That's significantly slower than nervous speech, which can hit 200 words per minute or more. When you slow down deliberately, you force yourself to think clearly. Your words become more precise. Your presence becomes more commanding. Rhythm matters too. Leaders use variation. They speed up slightly when building energy. They slow down when making critical points. They use pauses for emphasis. This creates a musical quality that keeps people engaged. Monotone delivery, regardless of content, puts people to sleep. Your voice should have movement, dynamics, texture. Your actual vocal tone carries enormous weight. There are frequencies that communicate authority and frequencies that communicate submission. Generally speaking, from your chest rather than your throat creates a richer, more authoritative sound. High, thin voices are perceived as less credible, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because of how our brains are wired. You can develop a more authoritative voice through practice. Breathe deeply from your diaphragm. Speak from lower in your chest. Record yourself and listen. Are you speaking in a tight, high register, or are you using the full resonance of your voice? This isn't about having a deep voice naturally. It's about using whatever voice you have to its fullest potential. But authority without warmth creates distance. The most effective leaders balance strength with approachability. Your tone should convey confidence, but not coldness. Certainty, but not rigidity. This balance is what makes people want to follow you rather than simply comply with you. Now, what about difficult conversations? This is where leadership communication proves its worth. When there's conflict, tension, or bad news, weak communicators either avoid the conversation or handle it poorly. They become aggressive, defensive, or apologetic. Leaders stay centered. The framework is simple. State the reality clearly without emotion. Address the impact directly. Present the path forward definitively. No drama, no blame, no weakness. Just clarity. A manager named Naomi had to tell her team they were missing their quarterly targets badly. A weak approach would be, "I'm really sorry, but unfortunately the numbers aren't great and we might need to work harder." That's apologetic and vague. An aggressive approach would be, "You're all underperforming and it's unacceptable." That's hostile and unproductive. Naomi's leadership approach was, "Our numbers are 20% below target. This affects our department's standing and everyone's bonuses. Here's exactly what we're changing starting Monday." Clear reality, direct impact, definite solution. Her team respected her honesty and responded with renewed effort. Difficult conversations require you to be more centered, more clear, and more definite than ever. This is when your leadership communication either proves itself or fails. Everything you've learned means nothing without implementation. So let me give you the exact 30-day protocol that will transform how you communicate. This isn't theory. This is the practical roadmap that has worked for thousands of professionals who decided to stop being overlooked and start being recognized as leaders. Week 1 is about awareness and assessment. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. For the next 7 days, your only job is to notice your current patterns. Record 3 conversations. Listen back. Count your filler words. Notice when you use tentative language. Pay attention to your pace. Observe when you seek permission instead of making statements. Write down every weak phrase you catch yourself using. This will be uncomfortable. Do it anyway. Ask 3 people you trust to give you honest feedback about how you communicate. Not whether they like you, not whether you're nice, specifically about your communication style. Do you sound confident? Do you speak clearly? Do you command attention? Tell them you want brutal honesty because you're committed to growth. Their answers will reveal blind spots you cannot see yourself during this first week. Study leaders you admire. Watch interviews. Notice not just what they say, but how they say it. Pay attention to their pauses, their pace, their definiteness, their body language. You're building a reference library in your mind of what leadership communication looks and sounds like. Week 2 is elimination. Now that you know your weak patterns, you systematically remove them. Choose your 3 worst habits. Maybe it's saying "I think" constantly. Maybe it's ending statements like questions. Maybe it's excessive apologizing. Focus on just 3. Every time you catch yourself using these patterns, stop mid-sentence if necessary and rephrase. This will feel awkward. You'll pause mid-conversation to correct yourself. People might notice. That's fine. You're reprogramming years of conditioning. It requires conscious effort. Set reminders on your phone 3 times a day that simply say "speak with certainty" or "eliminate weak language." These triggers keep you aware. Practice replacement phrases. Instead of "I think maybe we should," train yourself to say "we should." Instead of "this might work," say "this will work." Instead of "does that make sense," say "here's what that means for us." Write these replacements down. Rehearse them. Make them automatic. Week 3 is installation. You're not just removing old habits now. You're actively installing new ones this week. You practice the 7 pillars deliberately in every conversation, before meetings. Remind yourself: definiteness, solutions, pauses, future focus, ownership, powerful questions, clean speech. Start each day by speaking your intentions aloud with perfect leadership language. Not in your head. Out loud. Today I will communicate with absolute clarity. I will speak with certainty. I will use my voice to lead. This primes your brain. It sets the pattern for the day in every interaction. Challenge yourself to use at least 1 strategic pause. Make your point, then stop for 3 full seconds. Feel the discomfort. Push through it. By day 21, pauses will feel natural. You'll wonder how you ever communicated without them. Record yourself again. Compare it to week 1. The difference will shock you. You'll hear more authority, more clarity, more presence. This feedback loop is crucial. It shows you that change is real and measurable. Week 4 is integration and refinement. Now you're making everything smooth and natural. The techniques that felt forced 3 weeks ago are becoming automatic. Your brain has built new neural pathways. Your default communication style is changing this week. Test yourself in increasingly challenging situations. Use your leadership communication with senior executives. Use it in high-pressure moments. Use it when you're tired or stressed. The real test of mastery is whether you can maintain these standards when it's difficult. Get feedback again from the same 3 people. Ask them if they've noticed changes. Most will say yes before you even finish asking. They'll tell you that you seem more confident, more authoritative, more clear. This external validation confirms what you already know internally. A financial analyst named Preston followed this exact protocol. Week 1, he discovered he said "sort of" and "kind of" more than 40 times in a single hour-long meeting. Week 2, he eliminated those phrases entirely, even though it meant pausing awkwardly to rephrase. Week 3, he started using definite language and strategic pauses. Week 4, his manager asked him if he'd taken a leadership course because his communication had become remarkably more authoritative. 30 days, complete transformation. Now let's talk about adapting to different situations while maintaining authenticity. Leadership communication isn't one size fits all. The way you speak in a one-on-one conversation differs from how you address a large audience, but the principles remain constant. In one-on-one settings, leadership communication is more conversational but still definite. You use more warmth, more questions, more listening, but your statements remain clear, your language remains solution-focused, Your presence remains confident in small groups. You balance participation with direction. You invite input through powerful questions, but you guide the conversation. You make space for others while maintaining your authority. You summarize and synthesize what others say, adding clarity and direction. You give praise or criticism without shaming or rejecting some. In large presentations, you amplify everything. Your pauses are longer, your gestures are bigger, your voice projects more. Your definiteness becomes even more pronounced because you're managing more attention and more energy in crisis situations. You become more calm, more certain, and more directive than ever. This is when leadership communication saves careers and companies. When everyone else is panicking, you speak with absolute clarity about what's happening and what needs to happen next. The key is adapting your delivery while never compromising your principles. You don't become tentative in one-on-ones. You don't become aggressive in large groups. You adjust your volume and style, but your foundation of clear, definite, solution-focused communication never changes. Mastery is not a destination. It's a continuous journey of refinement. Even after 30 days of transformation, you keep improving. Record yourself monthly. Notice new areas for growth. Study communicators who are better than you. Stay humble but confident. The compound effect of small improvements is staggering. If you improve your communication by just 1% each week, you'll be 60% better in a year. That level of improvement changes careers. It changes lives. There's a senior executive named Walter who has been practicing leadership communication for 15 years. He's a master. Yet he still records important presentations and reviews them. He still asks for feedback. He still studies other great communicators. He knows that the moment you think you've mastered communication is the moment you stop growing. Your voice is the bridge between your potential and your reality. Everything you want to achieve requires you to influence others. Every promotion, every sale, every partnership. Every opportunity depends on your ability to communicate in a way that makes people trust you, follow you, and believe in you. Right now, today, you have a choice. You can continue communicating the way you always have, wondering why others get the recognition you deserve, or you can decide that for the next 30 days, you will speak like a leader. You will eliminate weakness from your language. You will practice certainty, clarity, and conviction in every conversation. The world responds to how you present yourself. When you talk like a leader, people treat you like a leader. When you communicate with authority, opportunities appear. When you speak with certainty, doors open. This is not about changing who you are. This is about expressing who you are with power and precision. Your ideas deserve to be heard. Your contributions deserve recognition. Your leadership deserves to emerge. And it all starts with how you talk. 30 days from now, you can be a completely different communicator. 1 year from now, you can be in a completely different position. 5 years from now, you can look back at this moment as the turning point when everything changed. Because leadership is not about a title. It's not about permission. It's not about waiting for someone to recognize your potential. Leadership is about deciding right now to communicate like someone worth following. And when you do that consistently, the rest takes care of itself. Talk like a leader, everything else follows.